Hello, welcome to ExplorinVictorian. I'm Josh Wilson, and today we're going to talk about aprons. In 1840, a book was published called The Workwoman's Guide. The Workwoman's Guide contains a lot of sewing and knitting how-tos, and in it we find several apron patterns. Among the apron patterns, they have listed a pantry apron. The description says, a very good shape for men servants to wear when trimming lamps, cleaning shoes and knives, etc. The apron is about 1.25 yards long, and it is made of strong linen or calico. The tape for the neck should be 9 or 10 nails long. A pocket may be added in front. The corners of the apron are simply turned down to the distance of 5 nails and a half from the top. The corners are either sewed or strongly hemmed down. Today we think of calico as being a heavily printed fabric, cotton fabric. In the 19th century it was just plain cotton. So we've got our 1.25 yards length of fabric. I went ahead and cut this to 47 inches long instead of 45 so that we have room to hem it. So what we would want to do is just turn this top edge under and then flip that again so that we have a hem. And then we would just want to press this down flat and sew this all the way down. You know, whatever width looks good for you. I think I turned mine under 1/2 inch and then folded over 1 inch to give just a little bit of body here to this top edge. So just turn your top edge down as you like. I did 1/2 inch under and a whole inch down, and then just press this, and you can do this on the machine. You can do this by hand with like an overcast stitch or a whip type of stitch. You just want to create this hem. And you want to do this on the top and the bottom. But once we get this raw edge encased in our hem, next the Workwoman's Guide says to come down 5.5 nails. This might need a little explanation because a nail is a term that we don't really use so much. I'm not exactly sure the etymology, but a nail is a 16th, and it's either going to be a 16th of a foot or a 16th of a yard. If it's a 16th of a foot, then it's equal to 3/4 inches. If it's a 16th of a yard, then it's equal to 2 1/4 inches. And so we kind of have to figure out by the context of what we're reading which measurement we actually need to go with. So because of the proportions that we're working with, we can deduce that this would be a 16th of a yard. So the 2 1/4 inches times 5.5, that's going to give us 12 3/8. So we're just going to set our ruler at 12 3/8 here. We're going to make a little mark with our pencil. And now we just fold this down square with our mark. And then we're going to go through and again, just sew this with the machine or whatever sort of hand stitch that you like. The nice thing about the fabric that I've chosen is it was 36 inches wide. So I've got selvage on both ends or both sides. I don't have to hem the sides also, just the top and the bottom. 36 inches is a good width of fabric to make an apron from. And if we do this on both sides, we'll get an apron that looks like this. So you can see we've got the top hemmed and a little bit wider hem to give it some structure. We've got both sides turned down and sewn in place. And then we just did a simple rolled hem on the bottom. The Workwoman's Guide says that the neck tape should be between 20 1/4 and 22.5 inches long. I'm not sure what mine ended up working out to, somewhere about there. In the diagram they show is just sewing it in one loop, but I went ahead and split it so that I could tie it and retie it if I liked. She didn't give any information for the side tapes. They ended up, after seam allowance, being about 15.5 inches. What you could do to make the tapes is tear 2 or 3 inch strips off of the bottom of your fabric and sew these into a tube to make your tapes to tie your apron on with. I went with cotton twill tape. You don't want to use cotton webbing, that's way too stiff. But just cotton twill tape makes excellent ties for these. And it's a little time saving, so you don't have to sew and turn those tubes to become tapes for your apron. The tinsmith in this photograph is wearing an apron that very well might be the pattern from the Workwoman's Guide. An interesting note about this apron: one, it's striped, looks like it's maybe made out of a heavy ticking type fabric. And the thing about the tape around his neck, it's sewn on one side but has a button and buttonhole closure on the other side of his neck. We've got our tailor here, and he's wearing an apron that's cut just a little bit differently. I'm going to describe in just a moment how we can make an apron very similar to this one as well. Here's a shopkeeper wearing another apron very similar to one that we would wear today. You see there's no real hard or fast rules to these. So we've got our butcher here, and he too is wearing an apron very similar to one like we might wear today. So looking at some of these other aprons, what you could do is fold your fabric in half, put the fold in the center of your chest, figure out how far over you want to come. You just put a little mark with your pencil. Once you've got your mark, come over 1/2 inch for your seam allowance. Come to your side, and you can measure down your 12 3/8 or however far down you'd like this to come for shape. You can measure this even at 16 if we want. And just take your yardstick, draw that line, and then you can cut that line and just do a rolled hem completely around that cut edge. And then you don't have to worry about folding your excess flap over to give it your shape. The reason I like the Workwoman's Guide apron is it's less pressing and sewing overall, I think, instead of doing a rolled hem down this whole edge. But it's your preference, really. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give us a like and a subscribe. Comment down below if you try making your own apron. Let us know how that goes. Hope to see you next time on Explorin' Victorian.